A bitter pill. Warnings tonight that hundreds of pharmacies in the south might be at risk of closure because of changes to funding.
I get good advice from the pharmacy and it would be such a shame to lose it.
It's the time of year when many of us look to our chemist for some help with the annual coughs and colds. But there are warnings tonight that hundreds of pharmacies in the south might be at risk of closure because of a change in the way they'll be funded from next month. The government says its reforms will modernise the sector, but some pharmacists say patients will suffer as a result. The Department of Health currently funds community pharmacies to the tune of £2.8 billion a year, but it's estimated that most community pharmacies will now face a 12% cut on current funding levels for the rest of this financial year. Labour has said this could result in a total of almost 700 chemists closing in the south east and south west. Bryony Leyland has the story.
Yeah, but it's not months plus. So.
Wessex Pharmacy in Alresford served its first customers 77 years ago. With long opening hours and familiar faces, it's a valued part of the community.
It does a service to the Alresford people and surrounding villages. They feel immediately at home because the staff put them in that frame of mind.
I get good advice from the pharmacy and it would be such a shame to lose it.
The National Pharmacy Association says independent pharmacies like this one will find government funding cuts hard to absorb. Fixed annual payments of around £25,000 will be phased out.
The patients will suffer because economically it will be very detrimental to the business. We won't be able to invest for the future. We won't be able to, for example, develop our business. We won't be able to invest in more staff. The GP surgeries are completely stretched. They're at bursting point. So it doesn't make sense to reduce the number of pharmacies.
The government says too many pharmacies are clustered together. Here in Alresford, there are two within a few yards of each other. In Parliament, the Health Minister said reforms will see pharmacies opening in new settings like care homes, and he played down fears of mass closures.
Mr. Speaker, the future for community pharmacy is bright. The changes we are making of a 7.4% efficiency requirement, over 2 years, is proportionate and will continue to orientate the profession towards services and quality for the first time, and away from remuneration based on dispensing.
The funding changes are due to come in from December the 1st. This pharmacy and others are appealing for the government to reconsider. Bryony Leyland, BBC South Today, Alresford.
Well, Sandra Gidley is chair of the Royal Pharmaceutical Society, as well as the former Lib Dem MP for Romsey. She came into our studio earlier and I started by asking her what she made of the cuts.
Well, I think it's all completely the wrong way round. For years, we've been encouraging people to go to their pharmacy as a first point of call. What we have now, to respond to the cuts, pharmacists are going to cut staff, cut hours. That will mean less access for the public, and then that will increase pressures on GPs, increase pressure on A&E. That's exactly what the government doesn't want.
They are, though, commercial organisations, aren't they? And some will argue, why are they getting so much help and support from the government? They're businesses, after all.
Well, they are providing a service for the business, and all the money goes on dispensing the medicines that people take every day. No different, really, to GP surgery. GPs are commercial organisations, in effect, but people don't see them like that because they don't have a shop front. Most pharmacies, 90 to 95% of their income comes from the NHS for providing medicines and advice to the public.
Now, we just saw in that film that there were two pharmacies opposite each other in one small town. That's one of the government's arguments, that there are too many chemists clustered together. So really a review of this is a good thing, isn't it?
Well, putting them all in the right place in the first place would have been a good idea, but we are where we are. But I've worked in a lot of those pharmacies, and quite often you've got some very small pharmacies clustered together who probably wouldn't have the capacity, if one closed, to take on all the extra workload. So it's not quite as straightforward as the government would like to make out.
And very briefly, just to finish off, do you think that this is going to be the real end for many pharmacies?
It's difficult to say. I think most will try hard, but patients will suffer because people will have to cut staff. So inevitably, some, I think, will close.
Sandra Gidley, thank you very much.